turn your mics on, please. 11 o'clock, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, I guess. Do you take care of that?
People I have listed, Randy is here, Hope, Justine, Mike Jones, and Barbara.
The Merrill sent out the name and emails and addresses and phone numbers. Is everybody's number on it, right? It looks okay to me.
It's the same one that I've corrected in the past, but I've just added
Okay,
people.
okay. All right.
Oh, and Charlotte's here also. Welcome, Charlotte.
Hi, Charlotte.
Hi, Charlotte.
And we have the minutes of November 28th for approval. Anyone want to make a motion?
Motion to accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
All approval, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
And Sarah's, hopefully she'll show up. We have a new member, Sarah Stevenson. I don't know her, but
I met her actually in October, November,
Okay.
oddly. I had no idea she was going to end up on the commission,
Nice.
so.
okay. We'll look forward to meeting her when she comes. I have no report for the planning board. We just had a reorganization meeting, and we have a couple applications coming up. And Mike is not here for a report from him. And Mike and Gretchen, about the AstroTurf. I guess they've had a meeting about that. Anybody heard any scuttlebutt about what's going on with that?
They sent a memo, which I couldn't find on my emails. It's in there somewhere. They said kind of a general report that there was a consensus of no, except for public grounds like miniature golf and places like that. But my understanding was that it wasn't an official decision, but a kind of consensus on this committee. But it was pretty definitive.
I don't recall where I read it, that there were some exceptions to.
Yeah.
And like miniature golf.
Mini golf was one of
for
them.
instance.
And a couple of other small ones, but that was all.
Right.
Little small commercial sites.
Correct, yeah. But I think we better wait and get somebody who knows what they're talking about.
I mean, I just hate to see a ban. I know there's certain things that shouldn't be allowed, but certainly that's why you have these exceptions.
Right, exactly. I think the main concern is that people will start doing them on their yards. It's like, no,
Yeah.
No.
You don't want people doing their front lawn with
Certainly your
it.
front
No.
lawn should be taboo.
or back lawn, or any lawn. Well, I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know about the back.
No, but,
There's
well-
certain things in the backyard where you can't get anything to grow or anything you want covered. Maybe it's not such a bad idea, but
But isn't it, like, the foundation of it is impervious surface?
Right.
So it impacts, like lot planning? Because a
It's
certain
plastic.
percentage needs to be pervious,
Right.
right?
That's the problem with it. It's impervious. If it does rain on it, it puddles and then pours off, and it's made of essentially toxic material. It's plastic. And when it gets too hot, you have to water it.
well, eventually it'll come back to the planning board again, so
Right.
we'll get another peek at it. Yes, sure, Charlotte, go ahead.
If and when it goes before council as a full ordinance complete, I know that there will be exceptions to, condoning various turf areas, and that should be because businesses would require them. But I'd also would hope that
Charlotte, if you could summarize that and get it to me, because it's been, like I said, it's going to come back to the planning board. Maybe I can just insert it, I can get it in front of the planning board before it goes back to council, okay?
Thank you.
Is that all right?
Very much, Mike.
Can you?
Sure.
All right, I'll make sure we get, I interject that at the planning board meeting when it comes up.
Okay.
All right. Hope, you have anything on the gardening update?
Yes, Charlotte asked me to forward the presentation that Pat Sutton gave to the Garden Club last month, and I brought a list of her websites and references, which I can just, some of you can take and pass on, and I want to read one of them out loud before I pass it on. If people are really interested in what Pat Sutton does, and I'll tell you a little bit out, you should try to get onto Pat Sutton's Garden Gang, a website that she she publishes periodically little reports and discussions on various topics of interest to nature. For anybody who doesn't know Pat Sutton, she's been working for about 45 years, I think she said, 44 years, on basically on wildlife in terms of both gardens and animals, mainly from her, based in her yard in Goshen. And her presentation to the Garden Club was a year-round report on what happens in her garden. But I thought for today, since it's the time of the year, that I would concentrate on this time of the year. And I have another flyer, and I just have one copy of it, but you're welcome to copy it. It's called Leave the Leaves. And it's one of her big things, and it's mine also, that you should not rake up or grind or mow or cut back many of the plants that go dormant in the fall, because underneath there and on some of the plants are not only creatures that are protected for the winter, and plants. The leaves particularly serve as a mulch. But if you look outside, if you have feeders, or even if you don't, if you look outside, you will see that there are birds scrunching around, pushing aside leaves, finding food, finding seeds, finding bugs underneath in your lawn and in any part of your garden where you have left the leaves. And it's a great justification for people who at one point say, it's too cold, I'm not going out there. And then your excuse is, no, I don't want we want to protect things. And now, as you see that the snow is melting, bulbs and things are already starting to come up. And that's part of why she promotes leaving the leaves on the ground. It serves also as insulation, so that if the ground should freeze, which it did slightly during the week, it does not. It protects the plants and little critters and things and bugs that are down there. And that was the essence of her presentation, and she went on to talk about the other seasons in her garden. But if you see all of these websites, all of the various references in this handout, people should go and check on them. And if you join Pat Sutton's Garden Gang, anybody who's listening would like to do that, please do, and you will have access to all of the information that she has. It's really important, I think, at this time of the year to remember that you do not want to neaten up your garden. You don't want to shovel out the mulch that you already have, and you don't want to get rid of the leaves and other things that have fallen. Birds are eating seed heads. They're still eating them in my garden, and they're still after the beautyberry and some of the other things that have been left. So are the squirrels, but there you are. That's what happens. And that was the essence of her report. I really recommend anybody who's interested in any of these topics to find Pat Sutton, to get on her website, and if she is giving a program, to try and get to some of those. She's doing a dragonfly program in Millville next month. That's, I think, the first one that she's done this year. I've taken bird and butterfly walks with her over the years and been to her garden a couple of times. You can learn a lot and enjoy yourself. She's interesting. She's a lot of fun, and it's worth any trip or any time you want to spend either reading or actually being with her. Okay.
Anybody else have anything to say on that? Charlotte, looks like do you have any information on climate change you'd like to talk about?
I do, thank you very much, folks. You know, as I opened today's daily paper here where we are in Florida, the headlines read, Sarasota County prepares strategies to stem sea level rise effects. And it goes on to say that projects will include stormwater management, green infrastructure projects, planting trees, creating living shorelines, all to help reduce flooding and improve water quality at the same time. This analysis in Florida is because the entire state is surrounded by water in the coastal areas. And they're looking at grants to fight the effects of climate change. So here, this is Florida this morning, but I'd like to direct your attention to a couple of lawsuits and some youthful people who are in the midst of trying to fight climate change through climate lawsuits in their particular state. And as mentioned very briefly last year, the Montana youth win a climate lawsuit against their state for promoting fossil fuels. And that particular state just said that indeed Montana youth have a fundamental constitutional right to a clean and healthful environment, which includes the climate as part of their environmental support system. And that evidently is found in their state constitution and helped them win a big case that they've been fighting for about 6 years with the state of Montana to give them the guarantee that a clean and healthful environment is a part of what they should expect. Also listed are 3 other states that have similar constitutional language, they being Pennsylvania, study, and I will certainly look into it and see where we are in terms of protecting our youth. Thank you.
Can I add something very practical to that? I don't know how many people know this, but there are only 3 insurance companies left anywhere who will insure property on coastal communities like Cape May. And you can find that out the hard way when when your insurance company calls up and says your policy will not be renewed. And we had that experience ourselves, and I know now a couple of other neighbors have too. In Florida, and Charlotte probably can confirm this, I don't think there are any insurance companies left who will insure coastal communities. So if you want to think in terms of our children's and grandchildren's future, and we should do that, we should think about our own, because this is getting to be a serious issue.
Hope, our condo association was hit with that. I live at the Meadows of Cape Island off of Lafayette Street. And our insurance for our 60 units was $110,000. It doubled to $220,000. And we had to find 2 or 3 different companies to come up with that because our original company wouldn't do it.
Right.
Okay, so immediately we had to do a $2,000 a unit assessment to pay for the overage this year and raise our dues $200 a month. Neither popular, but
Right.
essential.
We wanted to, we had this issue over a roof, and we wanted to switch insurance companies because they were pretty nasty with us about our roof. And this is when we found this out. And we called altogether, I think, 7 or 8 companies. And they all said, gee, we're really sorry, but we can't do that. So we had to stick with our old insurance company in order to keep the premium. There were 2 other companies who did it, but the premiums were the same. And it doesn't make any sense to start the whole process over and switch companies just because you're mad at your original one. So and now my neighbor across the street just called us, and she said they're canceling her insurance policy.
Well, we were canceled within a week of
Yeah.
renewal, so.
No warning, they just do it.
No claims or anything?
No, she hadn't had a claim in 15 years. We did not have a claim, but our roof needed to be fixed. I mean, they said either fix your roof or we're leaving anyway. So and that was it. But they had no warning or anything, and we just thought, well, we're really mad at them. We'll take our money somewhere else. And there was no point in it. There are only 2 other companies certainly in the whole country, who do it, and the premium was the same, and it was high. It was not as drastically increased as yours, but it was. And now we have a very nice roof.
We do, we replaced all of
Yeah.
this year, last year.
It's something to think about. If people cannot see into the future, which many human beings seem to not be able to do, think about right now.
That's been happening for a while now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's personal to you now, but it's been 15 years. It's been tough getting insurance on the barrier islands
Yes.
at a reasonable rate anyway.
Yeah, some of them you can get it at a very high rate, but the ones we talked to didn't do it at all.
It's almost just like it's catastrophic insurance and not homeowners.
Right. And the problem is that they just look at topographical maps. They don't look at our street, which is really well drained and 10 feet above sea level. And we say, yeah, but we don't flood here. And they don't, all they do is they look at the map and they say this is within 10 miles of a major body of water, which in our case is both the ocean and the Delaware Bay. And that was it.
I was able to do that, to get homeowners insurance without flood insurance, using the FEMA and NOAA maps and going to the bank and then going from the bank back to the insurance agency. But it took a lot of legwork to
Right.
prove to them that like stretch of that road is not in a flood zone.
Right. And that was, we just made the decision that not to make that kind of an effort. And I'm not so sure how much we would have saved. But you can't do it, but, that's what it takes.
Well, all of you are in a situation where you are an individual homeowner.
Yeah.
I was on the board at the time, and it was not responsible not to pay
Exactly.
insurance because there are 60 individual unit owners, and a board is responsible for providing this. So, but I'm not on the board anymore.
I also had a problem with my flood insurance, and I had to, initially, it was okay because the fee wasn't so high, and then the fee kept going up and up and up. So I was advised by a lot of engineers saying, it's not worth it to fight it, because
Yeah.
it takes you so long to try and get to the point where you can definitively show something, but finally I said, well, I got to try and do something, so I did do it, and I did get most of a very rear part of my garage is affected by flood insurance, but still now that's inching up and up and up and up. So that's not going away, and I have no
No.
idea if your house was in a floodplain, what your rates would be this year, if you had really had to, I mean, you don't want to not have it. I mean, if you're not insured, I guess you don't have to have the insurance, but still, if you are, I guess if you're insured by mortgage companies, they require you to.
Mortgage companies require it. And this was property insurance, not flood insurance. This was basic house and, you know.
I don't know what the answers to either of those questions.
Well, Charlotte's number 8 mentioned useful actions, and then number 9 on the agenda talks about like ideas for
Right.
this next year. So maybe we can talk about action items and tasks, projects.
Put that on the agenda for next
I'm
month.
sorry, I didn't.
Action,
Action items, like very specific,
I'm sorry,
just very specific action items or tasks,
okay,
projects
action items
On
for
this issue.
year. Yeah.
on
mean, it's-
insurance?
No, I mean, not necessarily. I was just connecting this conversation to the agenda item after it, because it seems like they are related.
in other words, more action items on this particular issue of flooding,
Sure.
yeah, and what we can do locally.
Okay.
Are we on that yet?
What's that?
Are we on them?
Yeah, certainly. I thought,
I
yeah,
have-
we
I
can
have-
move on to number 9.
I had a couple of thoughts,
Go
too.
ahead. Go ahead.
Actually, my husband forwarded this to me. He found this online about a day of service, and I was complaining that we didn't have an MLK day of service in Cape May, or at least not one that I knew about. So my husband forwarded this to me about how they worked in Philadelphia. They have a lot of things going on there, but this was an invasive species attack. And I'll pass this around also, that was part of one of the days of service that Philadelphia does, and I thought that might be kind of an interesting thing. It's a long way away until the next one, but something to keep in mind.
So a day of volunteer service?
Yes, a day of service. That's sponsored by Environmental Commission.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Thank you.
This past year, we talked about a compost project,
Right.
creating like a workshop series in Rotary Park or someplace. We mentioned it several times and never got it off the ground. Maybe we could do that
We could
this
do
year.
that.
Which one was it?
A compost project?
It's another item to consider, a compost
Is
project.
this a list for things to be considered?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we have goals for 2024, and I know they're general goals, but these are specific type things that
Right.
Right.
obviously relate better. But certainly, we talked about what's the status of the landscape ordinance? Has that been done now?
The brochure?
That, yeah, I mean, we had.
So I need this city, now that we're in a different year,
Right.
budgetary year, I need the city to reapprove the cost of the brochure.
Okay.
So I'll have to I'll resend it to Merrill, who can resend it to Erin. and then the order can be placed.
I was wondering, and don't laugh, but I was wondering if we could at least talk to the city about not using dyed mulch on public properties. I know we can't really go after public properties for doing that, but there's a lot of black mulch that is dyed not naturally with sometimes materials that are potentially toxic. And
To use what?
dyed mulch that's been dyed black. I think it's a bit much to get after property owners for that, but maybe we could suggest that the city use natural mulch for public properties, which is probably cheaper since we make it ourselves.
I have a couple of issues of.
Oh, everywhere.
That might fit into, action items for next year. One is we had discussed power equipment noise. We might want to pursue that. I know that that's the people I've talked to in my neighborhood, that is a popular item to pursue. A lot of people are quite annoyed by the leaf blowers and the lawnmowers and so on. At least we could pursue, take a look at something within the next, say, 3, 4, 5 years. Can we approach something with that? That's not going to happen overnight. I know that. The other issue that I would like to look at is there is a bit of urgency in vines killing trees. If you drive around this town, it's very easy to see a tree that is dead, that's covered by English ivy. Is there anything that we can actually do to save some of the trees that are in jeopardy over the next year? Is there any, actually doing something about it?
Didn't we already begin the project? And I think that the Public
Public Works,
is supposed to be going around and cutting, cutting the vines and letting the ivy die before it gets to, but they haven't done a whole lot.
maybe that can be the service day.
That's a good idea.
Citywide devining.
Right.
Yeah,
Just get out the old
look at
loppers and go.
ideas that we could do. One, disseminating information just like door to door. You could say, you have ivy growing up your tree, it will kill the tree. This is for your FYI, so things like that. But we could pursue some action items along that line. Also, I got copied on a 76-page study by the Army Corps of Engineers. I read it, but the first 25 pages, if any of you get this, the first 25 pages are the meat and potatoes of it. The rest of it is justification and documentation. And I have some questions about that vis-a-vis the Living Shoreline Initiative. This study is an exhaustive study, and it was made in 2016, and they found no reason why we shouldn't shore up the 2,200 feet along Delaware Avenue with what sounds like the end product being a living shoreline.
Isn't that one of the projects that's in the works that Gretchen's been reporting on? Were there plans to do Delaware Avenue in the next couple of years?
The Delaware Avenue.
The Army Corps project, yeah.
Yeah, it has to be done.
Right.
Or the 8-inch sewer line that feeds the Coast Guard base won't be there anymore after the next storm. The road will collapse. So the emergency measures that went into effect after Sandy were just that. They were not meant to be a solution to the problem. It just was a shore up the road, and it's done a fairly good job. In the study, all of that would be removed, and you would have dovetailing riprap, not just leftover junk from some other construction site. It identifies the location where you would put the final product, which is a sand product. You get it along the canal. It's from the spoils on the canal, and then you plant a living shoreline. It's a Spartina product,
Well, that's my question. I think Gretchen has already, that is in the works, is it not?
Yeah, but where is that?
I think she said they were starting it next year. Am I wrong?
And then there were some meetings that took place
Yeah.
that she wasn't privy to. Remember the last time we
Right.
talked about? But I guess this study put more emphasis on the fact that the sewer line is going to break, which,
Yeah, it's going to break, and then the Coast Guard base will shut down. You won't be able to go to the bathroom there. Yeah, it has to be done.
It's too bad Gretchen's not here, because I think she probably has more detail on that than anything.
County project, but you said is that a DEP?
It's a Corps of Engineers project.
According to this study, I encourage you to read the first 25 pages. It's actually 10 of those pages are pictures. They have aerial photography, and they tell you where you're going to get the fill, where will you dump the riprap, and all. It's quite specific. But it gets into financing. And from what I could read, the Army Corps of Engineers would do the heavy lifting on the financing, but it looks like the city of Cape May would be on, from what I read, 35% of the cost. It would be a 6-month project, and they don't come up with a number for what it would cost.
Well, when was that report done?
It was written in 2016.
Yeah, I think it's been updated since. I'm just
would
recall,
hope
just
so.
from what Gretchen has said in these meetings, that it's much
getting
farther
along.
along than that, and I don't know if she mentioned the financing, but it's imminent.
Uh-huh.
I don't know about the sewer line. I don't think she got that specific, but the project is it's literally in the works for next year, I
How
think.
how does it differ from the living shoreline?
I don't recall.
It is.
Gretchen mentioning the sewer. That this
No,
study
that's-
is about
right.
mitigating the looming disaster with the sewer.
Of the sewer, right.
line. I don't know if it is even related to the Living Shoreline project.
The sewer is not,
separate.
no, but I think the one
But
that
they should-
Gretchen is working on, what is the Living Shoreline Project?
Yeah,
The
but they
Corps of
should
Engineers
be
project,
done
is that right?
In tandem, though, because why put in a living shoreline if you then have to remove it to fix a sewage line?
All right, so they should be, obviously, the sewer should be added on, but I'm just saying that my question is that the Living Shoreline Project is in the works, and the sewer, as far as I recall, wasn't mentioned at all.
Yeah, this 2,200-foot stretch of Delaware Avenue would be part of the living shoreline.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the part that we know about. The sewer is new.
Randy, what is the name of the study or who produced it?
Let's see if I can come up with that.
Merrill,
It is
Brand?
the Delaware Avenue City of Cape May Continuing Authorities Program, Section 14, Emergency Shoreline Erosion Protection of Public Works, Cape May, New Jersey.
Did you get all that?
Randy, can you email that to Merrill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
It was produced by the Army Corps.
It's the Corps of Engineers.
Yeah, in November of 2016. It is.
That would be very good if you could email
I
that to
can't
me.
imagine.
Not the whole 76 pages, just the title.
I was going to sit down, and I began running this through my copy machine, and my wife freaked out. All the dye went out of the 76 page. There are color pictures in here.
No, don't do that.
I'll forward it to, yeah.
Gretchen had
Justine, will
mentioned
you
that
help
they
me
were
do that?
working
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
improving their,
you want
where they
forward
store
it,
their
go ahead.
boats there and
Yeah.
everything.
right.
So I mean, there is something in the works there. Randy, you mentioned you had 3 items there then, right? You had talked about the power equipment.
The power equipment,
Merrill, okay.
the
The vines.
Vine.
the
Vine.
vines, the trees that are in danger of dying.
And then this.
And then the shoreline stabilization, or the living shoreline and the shoreline stabilization, 2 separate things, but I believe they do dovetail. They're both Army Corps of Engineer. I'm sure that, they overlap, put it that way. But
Gretchen did
I'd like
say-
to, see where is that going, yeah.
The part that we know about, I'm pretty sure is due to start either this year or next year. By next year, I don't know whether it's 24 now or 25, but that is going. That's happening. I don't recall anything about the sewer. which is kind of interesting.
Wouldn't our city engineer know?
I'm sorry?
thinking about,
Wouldn't the city engineer be aware of that here?
I hope so.
I mean, let's check.
Right.
Yeah, the study is fascinating. One of they have 5 solutions. One is to do nothing. It's
Go is
the
that.
least expensive. And the riprap one is one, and a bulkhead is another.
I think it's the riprap.
riprap
think I
is
remember that because I love that
favorite.
word, and I had never heard it before. So it gets stuck in my head as this, that's probably the solution.
make a suggestion, Merrill.
Yeah, let's go.
Merrill, can you contact Paul Dietrich? He's our city manager now, and see if he can come to our next meeting. I mean, he was here for a little bit, but let's just invite him and let him speak on whatever he'd like to talk about
Yeah,
as far as the relationship between the city
you,
and
by the
our
way, you were
commission.
copied on that.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
It was
And
sent
Paul,
to you.
I know Paul is on top of this project on Delaware Avenue. I know he will be able to explain a lot more, and I'm sure that I know that Gretchen was hopefully going to be at the meetings that they were going to have. I don't know if that ever took place or not.
Right.
But Paul is a really nice guy. Let him come, let him just show up, we can discuss things with him about what the city has going on and how it relates to what we can do. Okay? So,
All right, one more question, Randy. Do you want to email me the document that you're talking about, the Delaware document, and I will forward it to all the members?
Yeah.
All 76 pages.
It's 76.
Well, if it's a document on the internet.
Right.
Or on,
You don't have to print it out.
No,
Justine's doing that. She's forwarding it.
okay.
go ahead, but
You have it on
read
your
off a computer.
computer.
Okay.
You were copied. Actually,
copied.
it was sent to you, and I was copied.
Okay,
You've been busy.
Something about
yeah.
the way the screen
It's
works.
it's on your emails.
It's not
I
being
think.
able to see it,
It
it's
is,
the whole
okay.
idea of the electronic.
But we'll get it out there.
There must be an executive
All right,
summary
because I
somewhere.
can email that to all the members as part of the minutes from the agenda.
Wouldn't there be an updated report? That's,
Or an executive summary,
I'm sorry.
a summary, rather than 76 pages. Usually in those documents, there's what they call an executive summary.
The first 25 pages give you all the rest of it is documentation.
All right, let's keep it at that.
Yeah, there is,
Could we keep it at that?
I mean, it's a link. You can
You
just
don't have to
follow the
print it out. You
link.
just-
No, I'm not going to print it out. I have a problem reading off this.
So we want to send the first 20.
Of course I'm not going to
see
print it
the
out.
updated.
Was it
Never
on your
mind.
Email?
No,
All right.
I'll find it later.
Go ahead. Anybody else?
Yeah, so the idea of having the city manager come is great, if we can make that
She's going
happen.
to try and do that for next.
There have been some plans, some solar plans being put together for the Public Works building, and there was a request for representatives from the Environmental Commission to also be in the meetings to meet with the solar engineering company that's creating the plan. So we need to put together a little subcommittee so that 2 or 3 of us can be involved with that.
I have no problem with that. I mean, I know we haven't heard anything back from them. Have we requested that?
So the mayor told me that the initial proposed solar plan was provided, and it was like insufficient, basically, and that he requested that the Environmental Commission also be present with it moving forward.
We'll jog Paul's memory if he's here next meeting,
Okay.
see where we stand on that. Obviously, it hasn't happened, because somebody would know about it.
I guess there were some solar panels proposed, but the property wasn't really like maxed out. Like, it's a great spot to have a lot of solar. It's hidden, it has lots of sunlight, there's nothing really around it, so it would make sense to really capture as much as possible.
Absolutely.
So that's the goal. So I don't know if anyone would want to work on that with me or by themselves, but it's on the agenda.
Anybody else have anything? Charlotte, you have anything else?
No, I thank you very much. Great meeting.
Can we continue to work on this, on the light pollution issues as well? I know there's still some things we haven't covered and some, maybe some monitoring that has to be done. I did pass the park the other night. That is incredibly well lit. It's like-
Too well lit.
Yes, it's like daylight. Whoa.
We can ask Paul that question if we see him.
Right.
Okay, anybody, well, hopefully we'll have all kinds of things on the list for next agenda's meeting. Oh, there's Paul right there. When did you slip
Oh,
in?
hello.
No, you did not. We would like to have you come next meeting, if you would, and just sit in and we could just ask you questions, very, give and take. Certainly, you can grab a mic. Sit next to you. You can sit next to you if you want.
Oh,
Okay.
Right here.
Everyone, this is Paul Dietrich. He's our new city manager, and I've known Paul for a long time. And Paul's very open, his door's open. Have at it. The question you had was about the,
hi.
Hi,
about
how you- how you-
the
Thank
public
you.
works, about the public works. They're going to be putting new solar panels out there at all? Is that something that you're?
So we are looking at, we had a vendor do an evaluation over at the Public Works Yard for solar, so we are looking at maximizing solar out at that facility.
And I think, the answer to the question was that we wonder whether anybody from the Environmental Commission could sit in on that meeting, if possible, if you have anything on that.
Okay. I mean, because a lot of it depending on the payback, we may look at whether we do it in advance of the desal plant, because obviously with the desal plant, we're going to be building another building. So that one's going to be engineered to have solar on it. Whether or not we roll the whole solar in that facility in with that project and build it all, so that from a bonding standpoint, it's kind of all part of that project, or whether we go in advance. So we're still evaluating what our costs. We don't have enough solar to really, where it's a power purchase agreement, where you get a vendor and you're kind of let them buy it and finance it. Because of the size and scale, it'd really be a project that would have to be built by the city, and then looking at it, the initial, without the desal plant panels included in there, it was looking like a 7-year payback for the city to add panels on the other buildings there at Public Works.
Is that good or bad?
I mean, 7-year payback is,
I mean, how long would they last? How long do they last?
after
like-
10 years,
Okay.
the efficiency starts to degrade, so, 20 years, you can say, is a good expected life.
Okay,
I mean, the panels that are out at Public Works now, I forget the date, but I think, they're still providing good generation here at City Hall. They're still providing good generation. I don't think they're at the 10-year mark for either of those facilities, but, 20 years is what you can kind of expect to get out of them. Because then you also have to start changing inverters and different things at that point anyway.
Is the company that came up with the proposed plan for the desal solar revising it and sending a new one? Or it was just brought to my attention that there was a solar plan that didn't really like max out the availability.
It did, when we had it analyzed, they maxed out the availability of of all the buildings that could handle solar and weren't shaded. There's some of the buildings that are, we have the water tower out there, and, that shades, it's not a tree where we
Yeah.
can remove and get more back. You can't move that water tower out of the way of the buildings. So for everything that was available to have solar on it, they evaluated it.
It did, okay. Can we see
Sure.
the proposal?
Sure.
Just out of curiosity?
Yep.
Yeah, cool, all right. So Meryl, can you send it Ron, maybe I guess there's no need for us to attend the next
Well,
meetings.
then we had discussed a little bit about what's going on Delaware Avenue. Anything new on what's going on Delaware Avenue?
The last update I had was they were at like 75-80% plans were done. I think they were trying to get those all done, and I think they were looking at for a fall project, is the last time I just.
And did that
discussed.
include, what was your answer?
Sewer.
Did that include sewer?
Sewer.
Did that include sewer out there, do you know, Paul?
No, this was just for, on Delaware Avenue, this was just for the revetment,
The shoreline?
the shoreline.
Well, there was an issue about, they brought up that possibly that the sewer lines were not quite up to snuff, and that maybe,
This was a Army Corps project sponsored through the county that was just a shoreline protection project. It had nothing to do with any
Okay.
road work or that. I know the county might do there's some drainage repair
okay,
on, so there's some drainage infrastructure that has some old corrugated metal drainage pipe on Delaware Avenue that they were looking at possibly repairing, but I don't know of any issues about the sewer main on Delaware. I'd have to talk to Rob Kaminsky over at Water Sewer to see if,
but do you think maybe maybe within a year, something might be started on that, do you think?
I think this fall.
Okay.
My understanding was that the Army Corps was going to put this project out for this fall, I believe.
Okay.
Is that the 2,200-foot thing on Delaware Avenue that you're talking about?
The revetment, yeah, it's
Yeah,
It's stone riprap, they're going to,
Right.
repair and really, not really raising any storm elevation, it's just really reinforcing it to provide storm protection and reinforce, from erosion and wave action.
in the 2016 study that I got copied on, they were going to plant, it was going to be a living shoreline, that 2,000 feet of that.
I don't believe it's going to be living.
That's not-
I believe it's going to be armored, ripraps.
Riprap.
And stuff, I believe, at least,
Yeah.
I believe what I had looked
But
at.
it's an Army Corps project, though, right?
It's an Army Corps project sponsored through the county.
So what about the sewer then?
Yeah, so that's not the study that I read.
The sewer is an entirely separate issue,
Right.
detached from the Delaware Avenue.
The
rip-
sewer is still
riprap.
there. It's an 8-inch sewer line that goes to the Coast Guard base, and so far it's held up. But the feeling is it's in danger. Yeah.
Is it storm sewer or is it sanitary sewer?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't know.
I don't know, we'll have to
Well, I mean,
open it.
This would protect that sanitary.
Correct.
Right, but I
Yeah.
think that's part of, but I don't think it's being replaced. I'm pulling up the plans right now, so I'm just kind of, just verifying.
I'm not sure that it needs to be replaced. I don't know. They were going to protect it so it doesn't break.
Anybody else have any questions of Paul while we're here? What were we talking about? The vines, maybe?
Yeah, the vines.
The
Ask him,
vines.
go ahead.
We have a National Vine Day.
National Vine Day.
Concerned
Divining
about
the-
ivy climbing up trees, and we had talked to Public Works about eventually,
You can start at my house.
okay,
It's a nasty place. Yeah, no, I mean, you're talking about on city property?
Yeah.
Or are you talking about?
Invasive vining, yeah.
well, Public Works, we had talked about doing the public trees, just, lopping off the vines at the base, letting the ivy die, and then removing it. And as far as we can tell, only a couple of trees have been done, a few, I shouldn't say a couple, just a few. And we were wondering where that is.
Well, if you get somebody to send me an email of where you think the locations are that still are having issues.
You have Randy has a fabulous list.
Yeah, it's getting old. I mean, I'll bring in, a couple addresses to the next meeting.
Well, we can email it to
Yeah,
you.
just
Just
email them
wait.
to me,
Right.
and I'll forward them over to Public Works and see, if they're city trees, I can definitely, that's good winter work send a guy out, and like you said,
This is the time to do it.
Right.
Okay, great.
How How easy was that?
I know.
I thought some,
Every month.
right, after you read that list, I thought of I saw a few more, but I can't remember now where they were.
Perfect.
Start at the
All right.
recycling center.
That's also a good project to send home with school children. Go home and look at your trees and
Yeah.
go through that, because there's a whole curriculum on hugging trees and
Is it really?
talking to them, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Anybody else have
Trees have
anything?
feelings.
Anybody else have anything for the meeting?
no.
I just was looking at the plans for Delaware Avenue. It looks like it's all riprap, the entire length. So It's
gonna-
not it's not a living
It's a
shoreline.
shame, the other plan would have created 2 acres of new wetland, so, but at any rate, there it is.
I can only guess is, because I was involved with a living shoreline that I constructed up in Upper Township in Strathmere. The wave action is very harsh on a living shoreline and very hard to construct. And, you know, when they built, I think was it Rainbow Island or one of the, you know, when they built the Route 52 causeway going into Ocean City from Summers Point, they did a lot of living shoreline, and they've had to go back year after year to try to rehabilitate it. And the wave action is very harsh on a living
Okay.
shoreline. And my own project that I built in Strathmere, just a small area, and we had a very long fetch, so the waves would just roll up on it. And all the initial biologs and mass was totally washed away. But what the good thing was, after about 3 years, some of the grasses that we planted in that were subaqueous, I hate saying that word, actually grew and you know, after years, started to fill in, and, you know, so I look at it as a long-term success, but it still didn't do what a true living shoreline did with, you know, planting of the biologs and stuff like that. So it just, you know, and I can only assume that that's what happened is, you know, the Army Corps looked at the wave action that would get there. You know, it's a big, large, open body of water sitting out in front of it, and all those waves that would be coming in, it was probably, they would have to have gone out too far to put out water, you know, wave breaks to make a living shoreline viable in that short space.
There's a boat channel to deal with there, too.
It's
I
a
have
lot
a
of issue.
Sorry, I have a question. Gretchen and the Nature Center uses the area.
They will be
And
a-
is she included in?
They're making accommodations to have that little boat area maintained for Gretchen.
Good.
They thought about her, or they didn't forget about her, let's put it that way.
Because I remember her saying that she was part of the discussion, even though they're just renting the area.
Yes.
Okay.
I just have, from the things I copied from Pat Sutton, there's some copies of books here if anybody wants to see them. Doug Tallamy is a favorite of hers.
Paul can't hide anymore, so Paul's our new manager, so he's
Right.
very approachable, so thanks, Paul, for stopping.
Thank you.
And
Thank
anytime
you.
that you guys, if there's a topic or something like that, you know, please feel,
Okay,
you know,
we will.
if I don't stop by, please, if you need me at
Thanks,
a
Paul.
meeting, just let me know, and I'll try to stop by.
Motion to
We
adjourn?
always have questions.
So moved.
Okey dokey.
Great.
Thanks, everybody. Mike's
All
off.
right, Mike's off, please.
Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it.